What we've got here is 5 gorgeous guitars. These are my 5 main guitars. These are the guitars I play on a daily basis. I use them in all my videos. I love these guitars. I love pretty much everything about these guitars. So what's the point of this video? In this video, I'm gonna go through each guitar and I'm gonna find something that I don't like about each guitar. I'm gonna find the 1, maybe 2 flaws that drive me crazy that I wish the guitar didn't have. So let's talk guitars. Today I'm going to be using the Katana Artist Mark II for all these guitars because we can get different tones, different effects, all kinds of different stuff coming out of this amp. It's much simpler to use with all of these different guitars. So no pedal board, Katana Artist. Hello and welcome to this episode of the Effects Loop. I'm your host, Jay Byrne, and today we're going through my 5 guitars, my 5 main guitars, and something that I don't like about them. Even though I love every single one of them and I love playing them and I love everything about them, I'm gonna find something that I don't like about each one of these guitars. So now, our first guitar is going to be this one, my Squier 60s Custom Telecaster. These things that I pick, they're going to be, they could be design flaws, they could be just an inherent flaw in the design, in the original design of the guitar that, you know, is whatever. The one thing I don't love about this guitar is the bridge pickup. It's a little too bitey and a little too harsh. You can tame it in a, and that's the thing about a Telecaster is usually the bridge pickup is like the big deal. But with this particular guitar, I find myself never using it. I always use the center position that uses both pickups, and I just like the sound of it. You can EQ that bridge pickup and get a decent sound out of it, but overall, it's my least favorite thing about this guitar is that bridge pickup. That and the fact that there's a few buzzy frets and you got to kind of work out the action so that you don't have an issue with that. Although that's something that could be dealt with a fret level. But so far, the action's been comfortable and it hasn't bothered me, so I've kept it the way it is. All right, on to the next guitar. My 335. I mean, this guitar, this is my Epiphone 335 Traditional Pro. If I had to pick something that I didn't like about this particular guitar, it's hard. Let's just say it's something I don't care to have. Because honestly, I love the way it feels, I love the way it plays. Stays in tune pretty well. I don't have any issues with that. I did have a problem with the input jack. That was something I didn't like at the time. But generally speaking, let's see, I've got 2 things here. One, if you've got a lot of distortion on it, you got the volume up, this sucker is gonna squeal. It feeds back. So an ES335, while you can tame it, and as long as you stay away from your amp and you use a noise gate, you can play this, you can play heavy rock on this, you can play anything you want on it. It's very versatile. It does have a tendency to feed back quite a bit. So that's something that I don't particularly love about this style of guitar and this particular guitar. The other thing that I don't care about, coil split. These Epiphone Traditional Pros give you this coil split thing where you can get kind of a single coily sound out of it. Sort of makes it sound like a Gretsch when you do the single coil pull on it. Honestly, I never use it. I never use it. I just use the original positions. I like the sound of the guitar the way it is. I play this guitar for the sound of a 335. So I don't really have a problem with the way that it sounds. And I almost wish it didn't have the coil split. I mean, I guess it's something extra that you could have, but for these Traditional Pros, if you get the new versions now, the inspired by Gibson's versions, they don't coil split unless you get the Traditional Pro from Guitar Center. I think Guitar Center was the one that had the coil splits. At the time, it seemed like a cool idea. I never use it. And while it's not a bad feature to have, I don't need it. So yeah, there's that. All right, on to the next. All right. So here we've got my Gretsch, my 5427T. The numbers on Gretsches are kind of crazy. Thing is near perfect. It's virtually impossible to find something that you don't like about this guitar. However, if I'm forced to find something that I don't like about this guitar, the one thing, actually, I can probably find two. One, it tends to go out of tune when you mess with the Bigsby. You can do kind of simple, like little like light Bigsby stuff, and it'll stay in tune. But if you give that thing any type of a push, this guitar is gonna go out of tune. But so that's one thing that I don't love about this guitar. The other thing that I don't love about this guitar is you can adjust the pickups so you can get them a little bit higher. There are ways to put things under the pickups and raise them up. I've never actually gone that far with it, but this low E always sounds a little dead to me. It doesn't have the punch of like a Telecaster or a 335 or any of those type of guitars. It just doesn't have that low punch to it. The low is always a little weak sounding to me. It kind of contributes to the sound of this type of guitar. So for that reason, I'm kind of like, all right, well, you know, it's this guitar. It's the type of guitar that it is, so you get used to it and you learn to live with it. But that is one thing, one of the two things, that if I was forced to pick something about this that I don't like, that would be it. And you know what? Now that I'm talking about it, I can come up with one more. It's not super versatile. It does what it does. You want to play rockabilly, you want to play old school rock and roll, it's fine. You start adding distortion to these pickups and they're bright, they're harsh. You can work with them and you can get them to sound good, but these Filtertron type pickups, they're not humbuckers. They don't sound like a humbucker. You don't get that fat sound out of them. It's got something else going on. Some people really like that sound. I personally don't play this with a lot of distortion. I mostly play it clean or just a tiny bit of distortion and that's it. Because that's where I feel that it sounds its best. But yeah, so you wouldn't be able, for me, I wouldn't use this guitar for a whole set. I wouldn't be able to use this guitar for a whole set where I'd be using like distortion and heavily distorted songs. This is like a specialty guitar that you bring out for certain types of music when you're playing it. So that's the things I don't love about this guitar. On to the next. Alright, so what do we got here? We've got an Epiphone Les Paul Custom White, my Alpine White. guitar is near perfect in my eyes, so it's kind of hard to find something that I don't like about it. But if I was gonna say something that I don't like about it, it's inherent in the design of a Les Paul. Unless you're playing a certain type of Les Paul, I'm not a huge fan of the bridge pickup on this. I never use the bridge pickup. It's kind of muddy. I'm sure it can be adjusted so that it doesn't sound muddy and it doesn't sound crappy, but I don't know, it's too bassy. Like, you watch somebody like Slash from Guns N' Roses, okay? He uses the bridge pickup all the time during solos and he does stuff. He's got very specific pickups and a very specific setup, although he's also using a Marshall, and Marshalls are inherently very bright. So that could be the reason why he can adjust it so that he can get a nice sound out of both his, you know, bridge and his neck pickup. So yeah, I don't love the neck sound on this guitar, which is the rhythm sound as it's called on the actual clip here. Is there anything else about this guitar that I don't love? No, not much, to be honest with you. This guitar is nearly perfect in my eyes, and it does pretty much anything. I guess the most common thing you could say about a Les Paul that you might not love, the weight. This thing is a brick. It's like wearing a house around your neck. So yeah, it's an anchor. It's a boat anchor for sure. You can get lighter Les Pauls. You can get ones that are what do they call it? Like relief weighted or something. They cut holes out inside the body to make them lighter, stuff like this. This, I don't think there's much relief in this guitar. This is full on like 9 pounds or something like that. So maybe even 10, who knows. I've never weighed it, so, but it's heavy, and it can be heavy and a little bit rough on you after a while. But those are really the only things I don't like about this guitar. The only thing I would say about this guitar that's a problem, and maybe the fact that maybe the G string goes out of tune a lot, but that is a Gibson thing. That happens on my my 335, this one, any Gibson style guitar. I had an SG for a while that, I mean, that was constant, so trying to keep that sucker in tune. But, okay, on to the next. Okay, this one right here, my Squire Strat. Really like this guitar. I play this guitar an awful lot. For all the hassles I had with this guitar when I first got it, it's become one of my favorite guitars to play. It's so comfortable. This neck feels great. Oddly enough, if there's one thing that I don't like about this guitar, and it's just my inherent dislike of Strats to a certain degree. Like, a lot of times, like, I'm not a huge Strat guy. I never use a tremolo bar, a whammy bar, or whatever you want to call it, a wiggle stick. I never use anything like that on this. I mean, I use it on the Gretsch for just a little bit of like movement in the sound every now and then, and I think it sounds kind of nice on a Gretsch with the Bigsby. But I have this decked out and I never put the bar on. Apparently, Eric Clapton, who is a huge Strat player, who is like kind of like associated with the Strat, was never into using a tremolo bar either. His were always blocked and locked down. So you can enjoy the inherent strattiness of a Strat without having to use that tremolo bar. That's one thing. I mean, I would have liked to maybe have a hardtail instead, but getting a hardtail is not that easy, and they're kind of expensive, and it's just not... Fender doesn't make a lot of easily accessible hardtails and Strats. Strats generally come with a bar, even if it's a cheap bar or a cheap whatever. It's just the way they make them. So that's one thing that I don't love about a Strat. about this particular guitar and a Strat in general. Honestly, there's not much else I don't love about it. I mean, I'm not the hugest fan of these vintage saddles because they can get notches in them, and you get these like little buzzy sounds in your strings, and then you got to kind of file them down. Strats can be inherently buzzy. They can be kind of get some noise there. Generally, if it's not coming through the amp, you don't worry about it because, I mean, clean, you can get some like buzziness out of a Strat that can get a little bit you know, as far as that's concerned. But that's what I don't love about a Strat. Otherwise, this Strat is pretty cool in my book, and I'm a big fan of it. These Squiers in general, I've noticed the neck shift a lot on these, and I have to adjust the truss rod quite a bit to get them in place. But I mean, I live on the East Coast and the weather is very inconsistent, so I think that has a lot to do with it. So just kind of constantly adjusting that truss rod to keep the neck, you know, in the position that you want it to be in. But yeah, so there it is. There are the things that I don't love about my 5 guitars that I use on a regular basis, especially on this channel and when making these videos. So, yeah, in conclusion, not everything is perfect. It doesn't matter whether you've got a freaking custom shop or a cheap Squier. Like, there's gonna be something about it that's probably not gonna be perfect. So, just learn to love it for what it is. Appreciate the things that it does well, and you'll be happy. I mean, a lot of people, honestly, I believe if you're a serious guitar player, you need more than one guitar. If you can't afford one, you can't afford one. And you can find some guitars that do a little bit of everything. So those are the guitars to have. But if you're really seriously chasing those different tones, those different sounds that you want out of guitar, you need more than just one. Because not every guitar does everything. Like, you can't do everything with this one guitar. You can't do everything with a Les Paul. You can do a lot with a 335, but you can't do everything with it. You can't do everything with a Telecaster. They do what they do very well, but there's always going to be something that's not going to work. I mean, if you're in a cover band and you play all different types of music, you're going to want something that's versatile. I always say the easiest way out of that, you should get yourself a single coil and a humbucker. You can get a Strat and a Les Paul. You can get a Telecaster and a 335. You know, that combination can cover almost everything. But yeah, not everything is perfect. But I still love them. I still love these guitars. And I still play them all the time. And the quirks are just part of the guitar. So if you like this kind of content, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, send me a comment, give me ideas to make new videos. I'm open for anything. My name's Jay Byrne. This has been the Effects Loop. I really hope you enjoyed this episode, and see you next time.